Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now joining me I have Irina Heaver, the crypto lawyer. Irina, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking your time.
It's great to catch up, and we have a few topics at hand today. The first topic, we have to talk China and the Bitcoin ban. And my first question to you now is, theoretically, can a government even ban Bitcoin?
Well, they can certainly try. And considering that China has been banning Bitcoin twice a year for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and they have not been very successful, probably the answer is no. Because just think about that. They only had to ban Facebook, Google, Twitter, and a few other things once in 2009. And it was a very successful ban. Every time I am in China, nothing works. Google Maps don't work, Twitter doesn't work, Facebook doesn't work. Very confusing. But can they do that with Bitcoin? Well, clearly not.
And we're going to run through the impact we're going to start with retail investors, then we're going to move through to companies, and then we're going to touch on different countries. Starting with retail investors, you mentioned Facebook and Google there, and that's a really good example. And a lot of people would reference that as a really good buy opportunity to buy Facebook shares and to buy Google. Is that the same for Bitcoin now? I know people would say short term, it's a bearish indicator. There's no way this could be considered bullish news. But is it the kind of Warren Buffett saying, which is when markets are fearful, now is a good time to listen up and have an interesting approach to the cryptocurrency?
Well, I'm not a trader. I would never trade cryptocurrencies because, first of all, that's how you lose all of what you have, whatever you may have. And Bitcoin is not a short-term hold asset. It's a long-term asset. So we're talking about, you have to have your 10-year sort of outlook. Bitcoin went down. It was a great buy-up opportunity. I would be very, very curious to see who took it up. Maybe somebody from within the China, those are the rumors, because that's how you drive the price down, by banning it. And then, they buy up an asset on the cheap. But I'm not interested in the short term. Completely not. And I don't think anybody who is watching us should be, a majority. I'm talking about the majority of the retail, majority of people who would like to get involved into Bitcoin. I don't think they should be thinking short term. I think they should be thinking long term. And if they have some spare fiat, they can put it into Bitcoin. Great, fantastic buying opportunity. But it's long term, it's hold, and because then you don't have to worry about what China does, you don't have to worry about what Elon Musk tweets. All of that just becomes noise that you're not concerned about.
And I think it's an excellent point that you've made when it comes to, you have to look at it as a longer term approach. And I think one big concern is in 2021, we welcomed so many new investors, and it is a very daunting thing. You look at China, this government powerhouse with not just the central bank, but other government indicators as well, banning something. And you've mentioned, we've witnessed them try to ban Bitcoin and cryptocurrency several times, banning Bitcoin mining a few months ago. So for us, we're kind of used to it. In the crypto space, we're like, oh, okay, again, here we go. But for newcomers, it's slightly different. Now, from a company approach, if you do have company representatives in China, or you are looking to expand across Asia, how would that deter people's long-term approach? I know from your perspective, more on a regulatory side of things, is this something where you are expecting international companies just to be a little bit more treading carefully?
So I have this internal conflict all the time. On the one hand, I'm a libertarian, and I love decentralized technology. I love Bitcoin. I'm being called a Bitcoin maxi, but I was like, I would not agree, but okay, fine, maybe I am. And on the other hand, I'm a lawyer. I work with the regulators. I draft laws and regulations on cryptocurrencies, and I have done that for several governments. So I have this really competing personality within me. So on the personal side, the libertarian approach takes over. On the company or corporate, or when I advise clients, of course, my legal and the regulatory side takes over. So if you were a company, would you want to be operating in this unstable environment? The answer is no. the risk is too high. Whenever you enter a new jurisdiction or whenever you operate in a new jurisdiction as a company, let's say you're a more established company. We're not talking about a startup. We're not talking about, a coffee shop. We're talking about, a more established business. There's always a risk matrix that you run. And regulatory risk is one of the risks. Government risk is one of the risks. Change of law and regulation is one of the risks that you assess. I mean, is this government likely to change the laws and regulations on you throughout the process? I come from the oil and gas environment. Every time background, I was an energy attorney for 15 years. Every time you go into a new country with tons and tons of equipment that costs billions to drill a new well for oil, you make an assessment. Will this government take your equipment, kick you out of the country, and just, take the benefit of the oil production for themselves? And that has happened many, many, many times. The Russian government has done that, the government of Kazakhstan has done it, the government of Venezuela, Iran, you name a major oil producing country, they have done that. So whenever you go into a country, you either try to have contracts in place that protects you from this, from the change of law, change of regulation, from the government action. But in this case, you can't have that because, crypto industry is not taking this as seriously as the oil industry. So why would you go and operate in that environment? Why would you go and operate in that jurisdiction? Look at Dubai. Dubai has never went back on the promises they've made to investors. Foreign investors who come in and set up companies. The environment is very friendly to entrepreneurship. The leadership of Dubai and the UAE in general is very friendly to entrepreneurship. Come and operate here. So that Europe, for example, you look at the Baltic countries, you look at Switzerland, which is my second home. Of course, it is a preference for the companies to operate in certain environments. And China is the opposite of certain environments, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And it also welcomes in, as you've mentioned, you've listed a few key open arm countries there as well. And you've mentioned kind of like Lithuania has been very positive, Switzerland, Zug, for example. We obviously are here in the UAE, which is welcoming innovation with open arms. Is there a risk now that certain countries will be left behind compared to the countries that are moving so forward at an extreme rate when it comes to innovation in these technology sectors?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and we see that all the time. Look at the US, for example. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they've embraced innovation, they've embraced technology companies. That's why companies like Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc., are set up there. And those companies who decided to be resource-oriented companies and, be the resource-based. I mean, look at Russia, huge country, very intelligent people, very educated people, but they're resource-based for Europe, which is sad and pathetic because they did not embrace the innovation. They did not embrace the new technologies. They will run out of natural resources eventually. But if you embrace the innovation, then you don't need to rely on natural resources. Look at Switzerland. We have no resources, but look how wealthy and powerful the country is. They didn't even need to join EU. They are, they're their own powerhouse within the EU. So a huge mistake on the policy side to ignore innovation. And if you're a smaller country, look at El Salvador, they could pass legislation much quicker and they can embrace the technology much faster and quicker. So I predict the city-states, the smaller states, to be the winners in this technology race if they take the right approach. Look at the UAE. We are open for business. We shut down for a very, very short period of time. Open for business. Businesses can operate, and everyone is here.
Everyone is here. It's true. If you're not here, if you're watching this from around the world, why aren't you here? And Expo 2020 is going on, and I don't want it to be too focused on this as a region, but this region has been fantastic for crypto organizations. You've obviously witnessed many new organizations come in the last 8 months. What would you say to people that are thinking about relocating here when it comes to opportunities and the energy in general, just as another entrepreneur?
I'm very biased, okay? So let's just start there. I've been living here for 13 years. I'm very, very biased. I consider Dubai my home. I came when I was very, very young, and I kind of, my professional career got molded here. So if you come here, willing to work hard, willing to do what you have promised and deliver on your promises, you will do very well. If you come here with an idea to let's get quick bucks from these Arabs because I don't know what we're doing anyway, you will fail very quickly. This will not work. You'll get weeded out very quickly. But in general, there are great opportunities here. First of all, we're tax-free. So there's no personal taxes, there's no capital gains taxes. So that is very good, as opposed to Europe. In some jurisdictions, it comes up to 50-60%. So that's not very good. And the government, the leadership is very supportive of entrepreneurship. It's hard to go through the loops. It's hard to get the regulators on board, very hard, but once you're there, you're there. And we've got regulated exchanges, we've got regulated OTC desks, we've got regulated custody providers. We have regulated companies here. It took them a while to get there. Of course, nothing happens overnight, but there is a process. And the good thing is that the regulator is willing to talk to you. You can actually sit down and have a conversation. This is what I have. This is what I want to do. How do we get there?
Amazing. Thank you so much for your insights today. It's always a pleasure to catch up, and we do have another interview soon. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe to not miss any more content like this.